This will be the true test of whether it worked or not. And I'm going to just take the brush, try to get out any of this debris that's been lodged in here from the rose. So obviously, guys, if the objects you're using to create the molds have some kind of coating on it, like glitter or things like that, expect that it's going to come off. All right, so I'm not able to get it out fully right now, but I'm going to proceed to make a rose with it. Okay guys, so I have my air dry clay here, and I took a small piece here. All right, so what I'm going to do is roll it out. So the pieces are nice and flat, and will give a nice smooth finish, or nothing more than they need to. All right, so I have my little plastic knife here. All right, so let's get started with this one. I'm not sure how thick I'll need it, but I'm going to just take a piece. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and I don't want it necessarily too thick, so I'm going to just work it into the mold now, and any excess I will get rid of. So I'm using my rolling pin here, and any excess comes off. Just want to make sure that this is flat here. So all right, so I can take my knife and clean up the edges here, clean off what I don't want. All right, and just let that sit for a minute. Take a ball of it, and I'm going to just shove it in there. Right, let's narrow it a bit in here. I don't want it too narrow, because again we have to pack it in there so that it's nice and tight. I'm going to make sure that the bottom part of it is narrow, because my goal is to use these as fancy caps for some of the bottles that I'll be crafting. Let's keep moving along here, because we are working with air dry clay after all. And it's best to work with smaller pieces, guys. You can always add more, because we don't want it to dry out too much. plaque, I think I will let it sit in here and dry properly before I take it out, as I'm planning on hanging this plaque. I'm going to put this hook indentation here, and I'm going to do it on both sides, guys, only because I'm not sure which is the top or which is the bottom of the plaque, but the side that's the bottom I can always fill that, so I'd rather have the indentation than not. So I'm going to place a piece of plastic on top of it while it dries, because of course the exterior will dry faster than the interior and I don't want any cracking to occur. So it's going to sit for at least 24 hours with this plastic on top of it. Okay guys, it's been 24 hours. I have the bottle cap that's dry and I'm going to try to remove it from the mold here. The mold is super thick, so I'm cutting about halfway of the mold, so hopefully I can slide it out that way. Okay, now it's loose, and then I'm going to just let it fall out. There we go. Now it's still a little bit wet and I unfortunately cut into it. I do need the bottom of it narrow, so it's fine that it's still a little bit wet or moist. So I'm going to shape it to give it some more length here and make it narrow, because the goal is to have this fit on as a general bottle cap. So that's what I have left. I think I'll cut off the uneven edges here. Just to flatten it. It doesn't have as much as a detail, but that's fine. It didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, but I think I still will be able to use this. So I went ahead and did another one of the heart, and this one is not so thick, so this one is actually dry. The first one I showed was not dry. This one is dry, and you can see here it's a little bit brittle in the back, but I can smooth that out. And yeah, we have a heart here. This is the button. I redid one and allowed it to dry completely. Let's turn it upside down, and we have a little button here. Okay, the edges are a little bit raw, which I could use sandpaper and smooth that out, but just for this purposes it's fine, just to show you what came of it. What I find, guys, is the thicker you make the mold, of course it's harder to manipulate. What I may end up doing is just trimming off the excess here, because really the shape is within there. Okay, so this was the rose, and what I did was, it still looks really nice. It's a little bit brittle because of me manipulating it here, but the problem I found is that it's just really too thick, and the more you manipulate it, is the more chance that you'll crack it. But this itself actually looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is trim excess off of this and this one. So I'm just going to take my knife here, my blade, and cut down just slightly into it and just trim off a little, going all the way around. As you can see, I cut off about a quarter of an inch, or a little more than a quarter of an inch, and it's still quite thick, but I do want the rose itself to have some depth depending on what I'm using it for. If I want it really thin, then I will put only a small amount of the clay in there. If I want it thicker, then I'll put more of the clay in there, but at least I have that option to do that. Okay guys, it's been 24 hours or so since I did the plaque, so I'm going to try to remove it from the mold here without ruining the mold and without ruining the plaque itself. It still feels kind of moist, but I want to have the option of manipulating it before it dries completely. So I'm going to try to loosen some of the edges here, and this will also give me a chance to see if I need to trim any of the mold itself. All right, so I'm going to, now that I've loosened all the edges here, I am going to turn it upside down. Make sure my surface is clean here. Turn it upside down and gently try to remove it. And hopefully it will be intact. This mold does have some overlap, so again, based on how it looks, I'll see what needs to be trimmed. Okay guys, so it's still a little bit moist, and without moving it too much, I just want to show you what it looks like. Look at that tremendous detail, guys. You can see the orchid and the leaves here. This was the mold itself. That's that. And I'm going to show you the original plaque is this, with this thickness, and this one is a lot thicker here. So I'm going to have to do some trimming, but as you can see, it's picked up a lot of the detail here, a lot here. There seems to be a little bit of texture here. It looks like cracking a little bit, but it could be just the texture. It's not as defined as here, but you can see on the sides it has the same texture here. So this looks very good. I'm just going to have to trim off the excess here before it dries completely. I'm going to remove this excess here. I'm just going to take a little fudge stick here and sort of create the textured edge here, or actually I can use the original just to create that textured effect. Okay, I don't want to manipulate it too much, guys. It looks pretty good. So once it dries, I will paint it. So there you have it, guys, my DIY silicone molds. Let me know if you try to do this and how it works for you. Thanks for watching.